What if some of the most powerful natural healers on Earth were forgotten on purpose? Hidden deep inside ancient forests, isolated villages, royal medicine chambers, and sacred civilizations, there were fruits once considered more valuable than gold. Fruits used by healers, warriors, monks, and survivors long before modern pharmacies existed. Some were believed to restore strength after disease. Others were consumed during famine, war, and extreme exhaustion. And a few became so mysterious that entire cultures protected their secrets for centuries. But then, they disappeared, not because they stopped working, but because the modern world stopped paying attention. This changes everything. Today, most people walk through supermarkets surrounded by artificial flavors, synthetic supplements, and processed foods without realizing that nature may have already created answers long ago. Ancient civilizations from Africa, Asia, South America, and the Middle East documented strange fruits capable of boosting energy, calming the body, supporting immunity, and helping people survive harsh conditions with almost no medical resources. And now, modern science is beginning to rediscover them. Researchers are quietly finding compounds inside these forgotten fruits that sound almost unbelievable. Powerful antioxidants, rare vitamins, anti-inflammatory agents, natural compounds linked to cellular protection and recovery. Some of these fruits contain nutrient levels far beyond the foods most people eat daily. Others were once used in rituals because their effects seemed almost supernatural. Few people still know this. But this documentary is not just about fruit. It's about forgotten knowledge. Over the next chapters, you will discover 9 ancient fruits that survived generations of silence. Some grew in the shadows of collapsing empires. Others were hidden inside remote tribes that never abandoned traditional medicine. And one of them, and the fruit we reveal in topic 13, was once carried by travelers crossing deadly deserts because people believed it could keep the body alive longer than water alone. And if you think that sounds unbelievable, wait until you discover the final fruit in topic 20. Scientists still struggle to fully explain what it does to the human senses. In ancient times, some believed it was magical. But before we continue, there's something important you need to understand. These fruits were never meant to compete with modern medicine. They existed before it. They belonged to a time when survival depended on understanding nature deeply, when families passed healing knowledge through generations, because forgetting it could mean death. Imagine living in a world without pharmacies, hospitals, or supplements. What would people trust? What would they eat to survive illness, weakness, exhaustion, or long winters? The answer may shock you, and the strangest part is this. Many of these fruits still exist today, hidden in plain sight. Some can still be found in remote markets, some grow wild in forgotten regions, and some are slowly returning as researchers uncover what ancient cultures already knew centuries ago. So stay until the end, because each fruit on this list becomes more surprising than the last, and by the time we reach the final one, you may never look at food the same way again, because the next forgotten fruit was once called the chocolate fruit, and its story is far stranger than anyone expected. Topic 1. Black sapote, the forbidden chocolate fruit. Imagine discovering a fruit that tastes like chocolate pudding, growing naturally from a tree in the middle of the jungle. For ancient civilizations in Central America, this was not just food, it was survival. The mysterious black sapote, a dark green fruit with a soft interior almost identical to chocolate cream, was consumed by Mayan communities centuries before sugar-filled desserts existed. Warriors carried it during long journeys because it provided energy without making the body feel heavy. Families used it after illness when strength needed to return quickly. And strangely, outsiders barely talked about it. This was never supposed to be forgotten. At first glance, the fruit looks ordinary. Hard shell, dark skin, nothing impressive. But once opened, everything changes. Inside is a rich black pulp filled with natural nutrients, fiber, vitamin C, and plant compounds that modern researchers now associate with recovery and immune support. In ancient times, people believed it could wake the body back up after exhaustion. And the strangest part? It satisfied sweet cravings naturally long before processed sugar conquered the world. Today, scientists understand something. Ancient cultures discovered through experience. Foods rich in antioxidants may help protect the body from stress caused by inflammation and poor diet. The black sapote contains impressive levels of these compounds while remaining surprisingly low in fat. To ancient healers, that combination made the fruit feel almost sacred. Few people still know this. Some historians believe the fruit lost popularity because it spoiled quickly and could not survive long trade routes like processed foods could. Over time, industrial agriculture favored crops that looked perfect on shelves instead of foods that truly nourished people deeply, so the chocolate fruit slowly disappeared from global memory. But in small villages across Mexico and Central America, the knowledge never fully died. Elders still prepare it the traditional way. Simple, raw, untouched. No chemicals, no artificial flavoring, just nature doing something almost impossible. A fruit that tastes like dessert while nourishing the body. Because the next forgotten fruit was once used by mountain warriors to survive brutal winters. Topic 2. Sea buckthorn. The warrior's golden berry high in the freezing regions of Asia and Eastern Europe. There was once a small orange berry so valuable that warriors refused to travel without it. The fruit was tiny, but its reputation was enormous. Sea buckthorn grew in harsh environments where most plants could barely survive. Violent winds, frozen soil, endless mountain terrain. Yet somehow this bright golden berry continued growing where life itself seemed impossible. Ancient horse riders noticed something strange. Animals that consumed the berries appeared stronger, faster and more resilient during long journeys. Soon, humans began eating them too, and everything changed. Historical records from regions near Mongolia, Tibet and Siberia describe the berry being used for endurance, recovery and resistance against extreme cold. Some healers crushed the berries into oils. Others brewed them into medicinal drinks during brutal winters when sickness spread rapidly through villages. This shocked researchers decades later. Modern analysis revealed that sea buckthorn contains unusually high levels of vitamin C, omega fatty acids, antioxidants and rare plant compounds linked to skin repair and immune defense. In some cases, the vitamin content surpassed many fruits commonly praised today. But ancient people didn't need laboratories to understand its value. They watched what happened. Cuts healed faster. Energy returned sooner. Harsh climates became slightly easier to survive. And over generations, the berry became part of survival traditions passed quietly from family to family. Few people still know this. Some ancient texts even describe rulers protecting areas where the berries grew naturally, fearing enemies could gain access to a powerful survival resource. Whether exaggerated or not, one thing became clear. This fruit was treated with unusual respect. Now pause for a second. A tiny berry surviving in frozen mountains, packed with nutrients, modern science still studies today. It sounds almost impossible, yet nature created it long before supplements existed. And the next forgotten fruit may be even stranger, because deep in Africa, one sacred fruit became known as the tree of life, and entire communities survived because of it. Topic 3. Baobab. The tree that defied death picture. A tree so enormous that ancient people believed it had been planted upside down by the gods. Across the dry landscapes of Africa, where water could disappear for months and survival became a daily struggle, one tree stood against time itself, the legendary baobab fruit. Some trunks grew wider than houses, others lived for thousands of years, but the true mystery was not the tree, it was the fruit. Hanging from its massive branches were hard shell-like pods filled with pale, powdery fruit, unlike anything most people have ever seen. For generations, African communities relied on it during droughts, long migrations, and food shortages. Mothers mixed it into water for children, travelers carried it across burning deserts, healers called it nature's protection. This changes everything. Modern researchers later discovered something astonishing. Baobab contains extremely high levels of vitamin C, minerals, fiber, and antioxidants. In environments where malnutrition and dehydration could destroy entire communities, this fruit became a natural survival tool hidden inside one of Earth's oldest trees. And ancient people understood its importance deeply. Some tribes considered the baobab sacred because nearly every part of the tree could help sustain life. Leaves, bark, water stored inside the trunk, and especially the fruit. During famine, it became more valuable than trade goods. Doctors ignored this for decades. For years, the modern world focused on imported supplements and processed nutrition, while overlooking foods that ancient civilizations had already trusted for centuries. Only recently did global interest begin returning to the baobab, as scientists started examining why these communities protected the tree so carefully. Few people still know this. The fruit naturally dries inside its shell without rotting, allowing it to last far longer than many modern fruits. In survival conditions, that alone made it extraordinary. Nature had essentially created a long-lasting nutrient reserve hidden in plain sight. But the deeper researchers looked, the stranger the story became. Because some villages believed the tree symbolized resilience itself, surviving impossible climates while continuing to feed generations. To them, the baobab was more than food. It was proof that life always finds a way. And the next forgotten fruit was once called the gold of the Incas, because ancient rulers believed it restored the body after exhaustion. Topic 4. Lucuma, the gold of the Incas. Long before modern energy drinks and artificial supplements existed, the Inca civilization trusted a strange golden fruit hidden high in the Andes Mountains. Its name was lucuma. At first glance, it looked unremarkable. Green skin, dry flesh, almost forgotten by the modern world. But inside ancient Peru, lucuma was treated differently. Warriors consumed it before long journeys through brutal mountain terrain. Farmers ate it during exhausting labor under freezing nights and burning sun, and royal kitchens reserved it for nobility. This was not ordinary fruit. Ancient cultures believed lucuma restored strength slowly and steadily, without exhausting the body afterward. Unlike sugary foods that create brief bursts of energy, this fruit became known for sustaining people through difficult conditions. Generations depended on it, and now scientists think they understand why. Lucuma contains natural carbohydrates, fiber, antioxidants, and micronutrients that release energy more gradually than heavily processed foods. To ancient civilizations surviving in extreme altitudes, that mattered enormously. Stability meant survival. This was quietly removed. When colonial trade transformed global agriculture, many native foods were pushed aside in favor of crops easier to export internationally. Lucuma slowly disappeared from much of the world, surviving mostly in isolated regions, and traditional recipes passed through families. But something fascinating remained. Even today, people describe the flavor as almost unnatural, a mixture of maple, caramel, pumpkin, and sweetness that feels impossible for a natural fruit. In Peru, some still call it the hidden gold, and maybe that name was never really about taste. Because ancient healers believed certain foods carried the energy of the land itself. The higher the mountains, the more powerful the nourishment became. Whether symbolic or not, lucuma became deeply connected to endurance, vitality, and survival under pressure. Few outsiders understood its importance. But hidden inside old Andean traditions was a simple idea modern society often forgets. True strength is not always explosive. Sometimes it is steady, quiet, enduring. Now pause for a second. An empire that crossed mountains without modern medicine trusted this fruit for survival. That alone raises a question most people never ask anymore. What else did ancient civilizations know about food that disappeared with time? Because the next fruit was feared and respected in ancient Asia for one terrifying reason: people believed it could calm both the body and the mind. Topic 5. Jujube, the fruit that calmed ancient minds. In ancient China, there was a small red fruit so respected that healers called it the gift of peace. Its name was jujube. For thousands of years, this fruit appeared in royal medicine books, temple traditions, and survival remedies passed through generations. Travelers carried dried jujubes during long journeys across dangerous roads. Monks consumed them during meditation. Families prepared warm teas from the fruit during sickness, exhaustion, or sleepless nights. And over time, one belief became impossible to ignore. People felt calmer after eating it. This changes everything. Modern researchers later discovered that jujube contains antioxidants and natural plant compounds linked to relaxation and sleep support. Ancient healers obviously did not understand the chemistry behind it, but they observed patterns carefully. They watched anxious people become calmer. They saw exhausted bodies recover more easily, and that knowledge survived for centuries. Few people still know this. In old traditions, the fruit symbolized emotional balance. Some believed stress weakened the body faster than illness itself, so foods that restored calmness became incredibly valuable in difficult times. Now pause for a second. Thousands of years ago, civilizations already understood something modern life often ignores. The body cannot heal properly without rest. And the next forgotten fruit became surrounded by controversy because people claimed it possessed powers modern science struggled to explain. Topic 6. Soursop, the fruit surrounded by mystery. Deep in tropical forests across South America and the Caribbean, one strange green fruit became the center of whispers, legends, and controversy. Its name was soursop. Covered in sharp spikes and filled with soft white flesh, the fruit looked almost unnatural. But for generations, local communities treated it as something far more important than food. Families prepared its pulp, leaves, and teas during periods of weakness and illness. In remote villages, people spoke about the fruit with unusual respect, almost carefully. This was never supposed to be forgotten. What made soursop different was not only its flavor, a mixture of pineapple, citrus, and cream, but the stories surrounding it. Some claimed it restored strength faster than expected. Others believed ancient healers protected knowledge about the plant for centuries. Then modern researchers became interested. Scientists began studying compounds inside the fruit and its leaves, searching for explanations behind its powerful reputation. That research triggered enormous curiosity around the world, especially online, where soursop quickly became surrounded by claims, debates, and mystery. And suddenly, an almost forgotten tropical fruit returned to global attention. But ancient communities were never surprised. To them, nature always contained hidden solutions waiting to be understood. The forest itself was considered a living pharmacy, and soursop became one of its most mysterious symbols. Few people still know this. In some regions, elders warned that the fruit should always be respected, not abused. That belief reflected an ancient understanding modern society often forgets. Even natural things require balance. Now pause for a second. A fruit hidden in tropical forests suddenly attracting worldwide scientific attention after centuries of silence. That alone feels strange. But the next forgotten fruit may be even more unbelievable, because medieval Europeans once allowed it to rot before eating it, and considered that the secret to its power. Topic 7. Medlar, the fruit that waited for decay. In medieval Europe, there was a fruit so strange that people refused to eat it fresh. They waited for it to rot first. Its name was medlar, and centuries ago, it was surprisingly common across castles, villages, and monasteries. But unlike ordinary fruits, the medlar had to soften almost completely before becoming edible. To outsiders, it looked spoiled, forgotten, useless. Yet ancient Europeans believed the opposite. This is where things get strange. Once softened, the fruit developed a rich, sweet flavor similar to spiced apples and dates. During harsh winters, when fresh food became scarce, medlar provided energy and nutrients long after other fruits disappeared. Monks preserved the knowledge carefully, passing recipes and cultivation methods through generations. And somehow the fruit survived centuries of war, famine, and disease. Few people still know this. Some historians believe the medlar became symbolic of patience itself, a fruit that only revealed its true value with time. In a world obsessed with freshness and perfection, that idea slowly disappeared. Modern agriculture eventually abandoned it. The fruit bruised too easily. It looked unusual. It could not compete with polished commercial crops designed for supermarket shelves. And little by little, one of Europe's oldest fruits faded into obscurity. But ancient communities saw something modern society forgot. Not everything valuable appears perfect immediately. Sometimes, transformation itself creates the value. Now pause for a second. A forgotten fruit that needed decay before becoming nourishing sounds almost impossible today. Yet entire generations once depended on it to survive winter. And the next fruit came from the Amazon rainforest, carrying one of the highest natural vitamin concentrations ever discovered. Topic 8. Camu camu, the Amazon's hidden survival fruit. Deep inside the Amazon rainforest, where floods swallow entire forests for months and survival depends completely on nature, one tiny fruit quietly became a weapon against weakness, disease, and exhaustion. Its name was camu camu. Small, sour, and almost unknown outside South America, this fruit survived for centuries, hidden among remote indigenous communities. Hunters carried it during long expeditions through dangerous jungle territory. Families consumed it during harsh seasonal illnesses. Tribal healers treated it with unusual respect, and modern science eventually discovered why. Camu camu contains astonishing levels of vitamin C, far beyond many fruits considered superfoods today. Researchers studying the berry were shocked by the concentration. But ancient Amazonian tribes did not need laboratories to understand its importance. They saw the results directly. Energy returned faster, recovery improved. The body resisted difficult conditions more effectively. In one of the harshest environments on Earth, that knowledge became essential for survival. This changes everything. What makes the story even stranger is where the fruit grows. Camu camu thrives in flooded regions where countless other plants fail completely. Entire areas remain underwater during rainy seasons, yet the berry continues surviving against impossible conditions. To some indigenous cultures, that resilience carried spiritual meaning, a fruit born from chaos, strengthening the human body at the same time. Few people still know this. Modern researchers now believe the Amazon may still contain thousands of overlooked foods with nutritional properties barely studied by science. Entire generations protected this knowledge quietly, while the modern world focused elsewhere. And perhaps that is the real mystery. How many natural solutions were forgotten simply because civilization stopped listening to ancient wisdom? Now pause for a second. A tiny fruit hidden deep in flooded jungles contains nutrient levels powerful enough to surprise modern scientists today, and most people have never even heard its name. Topic 9. Miracle fruit. The berry that rewrote human taste. What if a single fruit could completely change the way your tongue experiences flavor? Not metaphorically, literally. For centuries, villages in West Africa protected the secret of miracle fruit, a small red berry so unusual that early explorers believed the stories about it were impossible. According to local traditions, after eating the fruit, sour foods suddenly tasted incredibly sweet. Lemons tasted like candy. Vinegar became strangely pleasant. Nothing about it seemed real. This was never supposed to be forgotten. At first, outsiders assumed the stories were myths or exaggerations, but eventually, scientists tested the berry themselves and discovered the fruit actually contains a natural compound capable of temporarily altering taste perception on the tongue. The effect was real, and suddenly, an ancient African secret became one of the strangest food discoveries modern science had ever studied. Few people still know this. In traditional communities, the fruit was sometimes used before consuming bitter or sour foods during difficult seasons when resources became limited. Nature had created a way to make harsh flavors easier to tolerate. In survival conditions, that mattered more than most people realize, but the deeper meaning of the miracle fruit feels even more fascinating. For thousands of years, humanity searched for healing in laboratories, chemicals, and technology, while extraordinary natural mysteries already existed quietly inside forests, mountains, and forgotten civilizations. And maybe that is the true lesson behind every fruit in this documentary. Ancient people survived not because they conquered nature, but because they understood it. Some knowledge disappears, but some knowledge waits patiently to be rediscovered. Stay close for the next documentary, where even older forgotten secrets hidden by history will finally be revealed.